Welcome back to the Real Mr. Mom. I'm Seeds. Today I'm going to be talking about the focus of fear, or something of that nature. So one of the things I'm going to try to do, because I haven't been able to make videos in about a month, is I'm thinking about making a more videos, but shorter videos. That way somebody can just focus on one subject and kind of pick and choose what might benefit them or what they want to hear about. But by that I mean by the fear or the focus of fear is again just reflecting on my own reaction with traumatic loss and how anxiety and depression can mess with your mind. One of the things that I've noticed with myself is just this sense of not trying to show too much love to our loved ones, because out of fear that our love will actually bring negative results. That's one of the things that I've noticed with my kids and my wife, is that there are definitely times when they just fill my heart and I want to say it, but I kind of hold back. And it's not one of those things where, I'm constantly telling my kids and my wife that I love them. But it's almost this sense that there's this almost boogeyman type evil entity that's out there waiting to prey on, what I bring most of my attention and love to. And so there's almost this disillusion of thinking that somehow if I don't love them too much overtly, if I don't become too vulnerable with them, they'll be protected, even if it hinders my relationship with them. Even if I feel self-loathing because I'm not being as loving as I'd like to be, or as open about my love, I actually have this thought of that my attention towards them will draw the universe to harm them in some way. And so again, it's just one of those things where how the mentally ill or mentally unhappy mind works is that it categorizes, well, not categorizes, but collects experiences. And while, and I've talked about this in the past, but while you might look at it and say, there's 365 days in a year, in the last 12 months, nothing bad has happened. Therefore, you have 365 days of experiences where you can bring positivity and think life's going to be okay. I've had 365 days of nothing bad happen. Whereas the depressed mind thinks it's just more likely that something tragic is going to happen. Like it's due. It's I'm playing with borrowed money. It can't be going well this long. And so you kind of hold your breath mentally until it does happen. And then you feel validation because you knew something bad was going to happen. And so you just spend your whole time worrying and trying to not, and to actually think that your focus and your love, and I don't want to say hiding it, but hiding it, will actually protect your loved ones. And so you deprive your love from your loved ones out of desire to protect them. And the problem is the longer that goes on, the more validated you feel about it. There's a sense of, well, the second I put my guard down, the second I stop doing this, something bad's going to happen. And so you've really given your mind a lot of power over your reality. And so again, that's one of those things where this is where it's so important for people to self-reflect and see if they're doing that, and just see how, their pain affects them, because it affects us all differently. And so that's one of the reasons why, I want to talk about so many different aspects, is because I know that not everyone, can relate to that, but maybe there's aspects that they can relate to. And so again, just because, you don't necessarily experience life this way when you've lost somebody traumatically, or because your mind doesn't work that way, you might be related to somebody who does. Like, that's the other thing too, is that one of the things that I've seen throughout my family is that, again, we've all responded differently. I'm sure there are different things that we can relate to. I'm sure there are certain aspects, but that's the thing, is that just with what's going on in the world, I can see my family responding different ways. And I'm sure that our pain has directly influenced how we observe those things. But again, that's the important thing about it, is to take a step back and try to figure out, what's bothering you, but why it's bothering you. It's not just the fact that, you've maybe there are things that are in the news. That's one of the things that, again, too, where there are times when I'm terrified that something tragic is going to happen to my family. And again, that doesn't seem to stop. It's something that I have to consciously combat and essentially just accept as part of my life right now. I think that there will be a point when, I get to a point where I can just have a healthy state of mind and not even walk down that path. But again, I feel like that's one of the big difficulties of trying to combat mental health and the damage it causes is a lot of times we hide it from ourselves. A lot of times we're not even pronouncing what the issues are to ourselves. We're just recycling ideas of what worries us, or recycling ideas of why we feel like something bad's going to happen again, and we're kind of in this state of shell shock to where we're just waiting for the next bomb to drop, and so we kind of just stand still mentally, and a lot of people around us have no idea what's going on, and they don't understand why we're not moving forward or why we're so terrified. And again, so that's the thing that I've realized. And again, too, just to cycle back to the fact that I feel like a lot of the times, I think all of us, view life as we see it. And the sad thing is that we think that our truths, which are true for everyone, which is not true. That's kind of the irony of truths. It's not true for everyone, and so that's the important thing about it is to not deprive each other of what might be true for someone else. And so again, it's just, focusing on every detail of your pain. It's not just the fact that it makes you sad or makes you feel overwhelmed, or like I said just now, makes you feel like something bad's going to happen because it already has happened. But it's just thinking, why do you think that way? Why? What's motivating you? What good do you think? Because that's the thing, like I said, is that I'm trying to protect my family. I'm trying to do what in my mind I feel is right to and again, I realize that it's an irrational thought for me to think that somehow, because I'm not fully, say, emotionally committed, it's kind of like, and not to be, narcissistic, but it'd be like if you're a superhero, you don't want to let the villains know who your loved ones are, because guess who they're going to come after? They're going to come after your loved ones, because that's the leverage that they have against you. They might not be able to hurt you directly, and so they're going to go to a loved one who's vulnerable and hurt them to hurt you. And so I feel like that's how your mind works, is that your mind is a battle between heroes and villains. And again, that's the sad thing, is I feel like the villains are winning when we allow ourselves to not fully 100% commit to overtly loving our loved ones, and to just accept the fact that, I'd rather have, looking back at my twin brother, I would rather have 20 years of bliss with him than have spent, most of that time worrying about the day that would come where he would be taken from me. There were moments that before he was killed in action that I felt he was going to be killed, and that was tainted. But it wasn't every day that he was deployed. It wasn't every day, once he had joined the Marine Corps, and it was almost certain that he was going to be deployed. I didn't spend every single day worrying about it. And, looking back, that was one of the things that I felt like was a blessing that he gave to me, was that it was about 5 days before he was killed. There was a picture of him kind of looking off in the distance, and, just for myself and remembering the conversations I had with my twin when he was deployed. I want to say it was about a month before he was killed, where his tone changed. And at the time, I didn't notice it. I mean, I noticed it was different, but I didn't know why. And so, with my conversations before he was deployed, I wholeheartedly believe that he left this country and was deployed to Iraq, believing he was coming back, just based on the conversations we had. We were planning on buying houses next to each other, and all these conversations of the future. And then, like I said, about a month before he was killed, his demeanor seemed very somber. It seemed very in the moment. And my brother was always, jumping ahead and moving forward. And so, looking back at that, I think about a month before he was killed, he knew he wasn't coming home. And while it made me sad, because I wanted to be there for him, I wish he had talked to me so that I could give him comfort and just have some, sad but somber and heartfelt conversations. But I also felt blessed that he gave that sacrifice, and that, to me, that was the ultimate epitome of who my brother was self-sacrificing. That he would rather have spent those last days knowing that he wasn't coming home, but not put that burden on his family, and to let us think that everything was going to be okay, because he knew tragedy was coming, and he knew that worrying about it wasn't going to prevent it from happening. And so to be able to give us that peace, before the storm in our lives, means a lot. And so that's one of the things that I've realized too, when trying to avoid paranoid thoughts, such as thinking that somehow that my I'm going to say existential love towards my family is somehow going to bring, the universe is going to bring some sort of tragedy on them because the universe knows how much that matters to me. Is, like I said, it's just not to be cheesy, but it's this concept that there's a train bearing down on you, and you can either run from it, or you can run towards it, or you can accept that it's coming, and essentially just live life until it comes. And I think that's what I'm trying to do. Is you don't want to run towards it because it's just self-destruction. You don't want to run from it because you're just preventing the inevitable, and you're going to be tired by the time it shows up. It's just about enjoying life and making the best of life until tragedy strikes. That's one of the things that I have to tell myself from time to time, is just to focus on the now. And if I see tragedy in front of me, if there's something I can directly intervene and make a decision to protect my family, I certainly will. But constantly being on mental guard to try to prevent some sort of unknown tragedy from happening, I just realize that it's a waste of time, and you end up missing out on the very thing you're trying to protect, and you don't want to lose. And so again, just looking back at it, as much as it was hurtful, and it did hurt me a lot, knowing that my brother was going to die before I was told, knowing he had been killed before I was told, I cherish and I am thankful for the amount of time I did have with the disillusion that he was going to be okay, because all the worrying in the world wouldn't have prevented him from being killed, and it would have just mentally worn me down. I think that's one of the things I've realized with preparing mentally for tragedy, is that you just wear yourself down, so when the tragedy actually arrives, you're drained. You've already been emotionally dealing with the problem before it was a problem, and now it is a problem. Now it did happen. And so now you have to deal with that, but you're mentally drained. And so it's just a very overwhelming process, and it doesn't stop anything. So that's one thing I would encourage with people who suffer from mental unhappiness and who suffer from worrying that all these tragedies are going to happen, is that you really can't. And that's one of the things that I've realized, and I'm going to talk about in the next episode, is just kind of this concept of, I think I call it the imperfect, perfect truth about how tragedies take place. But I'm going to talk about it in the next episode. But as always, good luck and good night.